right, guys. This is Moshe coming to you from Israel in the Galilee. A lot of intel type news coming up today. And let me go into the live stream and make sure we're good there, and then I'll get going. Put a few quick posts up. Go into the live stream, and we're good. Let me get a couple of my posts up very quick. That's not working. What's wrong? Try again. Now it's working. Just be a few seconds. And let me get my email up, and then we'll get going. Okay. That's it. All right. I'm going to do some praise and we'll get going. There is no God like Jehovah. 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 There is no Messiah like Yeshua. 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 All right, so there's been a lot happening. Israel hit Yemen again last night. An F-18 American fighter jet was taken down near Yemen, I believe, and we'll get into these things and then tie it to prophecy, and then I'm going to talk about how to use spiritual warfare to bring people out of churchianity. Not so much on the demon tossing, more so on the canceling witchcraft spells, enchantments, sorcery, and all that stuff. And I'm going to give you some experience I had with that not that long ago, and I think you'll find it helpful. Okay? I think it'll produce. But let me get into the news because it's rather important, and this could be the end of Edom, which is Yemen. So the story we're hearing is an F-18 took off from the Harry Truman aircraft carrier, and one of their escort ships, the Gettysburg, which I thought was a destroyer, but it's a missile cruiser, took it down with a missile. Now, my understanding going back for years is that the Americans put systems in their jets and their missiles so their missiles will not lock onto and destroy an American jet. Now, This didn't happen in World War II. It may have been going on in Vietnam. I don't know. That I can't tell you. But in World War II, there was a lot of friendly fire takedowns because they didn't have the missiles so much. So they had flak, which was a pretty good sized projectile that would go up. They were even able to get it to 25,000 feet, I think, but I don't think it was used at that altitude very much at all. Most of the bombers back then would come in at about 5,000 feet or so, which is rather low. When you're in a plane at 5,000 feet, you see the buildings and the roads and stuff like that, which is what the bombers were looking for. And they had bomb sites as well, but it was a proximity weapon. It would get near the aircraft and blow up, and shrapnel would go flying, and they destroyed a lot of planes with this. They shot it in massive quantities. Okay, they killed crew members, wounded crew members, took out engines, other vital components of the plane. It was a very dangerous thing. I knew a guy. Remember, I'm old, and I worked with people that were in World War II when I was a young guy out of graduate school, and they were still telling World War II stories, okay? And he told me that he was on bombers in Europe, and they gave them a tankard of rum, which would be something. This is my coffee cup, it has no rum in it. It's nice and insulated, but they got something about that size of rum that they would drink before they took off, because the casualty rate was very high, and if you had a ditch in enemy territory, it was rather treacherous, although they had underground in Europe and various places that would try to rescue the crew and hide them and work their way into friendly territory and things like that. Um, they also had a ditch in the ocean, and that wasn't the greatest thing for them. If they were able to phone in the Mayday, they're going down, and give their location, of course, the enemy would know it too from the radio transmission, but they did it anyway, and then they would bring the plane down in the water, and they had a little bit of time, probably maybe as much as 7 or 8 minutes or something. Like, they had time before the plane would sink. They would probably drop any bombs they had and excess and fuel when they were going down. I think they would, if they had the time and ability, that would lighten the weight of the plane and make it more buoyant on the water. And then they had these emergency kits that they would throw out the door in the water. Mind you, they're 10, 12 feet over the water, maybe less. And they would, probably toss it out to some guy that was already in the water so it didn't wash away. He'd hold on to it, they'd come down, they'd open it up. It had a canister of gas, it would blow up the raft, and they had survival equipment there, but they didn't have the GPS. They didn't have satellite phones. They didn't have any of this. So they would use signal mirrors and flare guns. Okay, so it's advanced much more. I imagine they spend $1 million on a pilot today, so they try real hard to save him. Well, these two guys in the F-18 apparently ejected, and they were recovered. One had minor injuries and the other was fine. Now, what really happened? Well, I don't think what happened was they got hit by their own missile. I would give that under a 1% chance. Let alone their own escort vessel, which would have been near them, maybe 2-3 miles away, maybe a mile away, a half a mile, a quarter mile, I don't know. It would be reasonably close, probably in the vicinity of a mile or something. It doesn't make sense. Now, a few hours before that, the Houthis hit Tel Aviv again. They weren't getting any real casualties or something. It was a playground or something like that with another one of these missiles. And now we're getting information leaked from the Arab media that what the Houthis in Yemen have done is they've reduced the size of the warhead in the missile and they expanded the fuel capacity of the missile. So this takes us to where? You got to really analyze this, okay? Let's get through it. Number one, the increased fuel capacity and the lightning of the warhead can increase the range of the missile. It can increase the speed of the missile, and both. Okay, so the missile for the second time was not really taken down effectively by the Israeli IDF, which were not using Iron Dome. They were using David slings. They did put some damage in the missile, but they did analyze everything from the last attack, and I imagine they'll be analyzing this attack all day. And they think, well, from the previous attack 2 or 3 days ago, they thought they knew how to overcome it, but apparently they're still working on it. Okay, and then a few hours after that, it appears the Houthis took down the jet. They're saying they were firing at to destroy it. Now, there's always a remote chance that the jets are flying around the aircraft carrier, maybe trying to take down a drone or something like that, or even a missile. It's our planes do that. And the missile come in, and somehow the pilots didn't pick it up and get out of the way, and the missile hit them. That's rather far-fetched because they have all sorts of warning alert systems that if the missile was near them, maybe 15 seconds away even, there would be all kinds of buzzers and lights and stuff flashing in the cockpit, and the plane would probably activate their defense mechanism, sending out heat things to distract the missile or whatever. But it could have hit it by accident. But the friendly fire, I don't think. I think the Houthis improved their missiles and caught Israel and America off guard. Now, American aircraft carriers got hit more than once, plus destroyers. Now, I saw pictures where the Houthis were saying they destroyed a destroyer, and I saw the thing in flames, but that could have been a phony picture. It could have been who knows what. But we do know one aircraft carrier about, I don't know, must be 7, 8, 9 months ago, got hit, and it had to go dock in Saudi Arabia for repairs before they could get it out of there. Okay? And they do frequently shoot at American ships in the region where they could reach them. Drones, missiles, anything they could throw at the American ship, they will. So I don't buy the F-18 theory. I mean, when was the last time you heard of something like that? I mean, it's rather absurd, There's also a possibility that it was a false flag. They're just saying it happened, and it never happened. That's a possibility too. I'd say on the remote side, because they didn't say the Houthis did it. They said that it was friendly fire. So the false flag, I'd say, push that on the side. And I would say 99% chance it was a Houthi missile, 1% or even less it was an American missile. So last night, after this incident, Israel did attack Yemen. Now, it's just hours ago when the attack happened, because it's a little after 9 in the morning here, so we don't have the reports on the damage or what exactly happened yet, but we are getting information that Israel did strike Yemen last night. And to what extent and what damage, we don't know. We don't know. America will be hitting Yemen again, I believe, along with the UK. Israel is at this point trying to raise a coalition to strike Yemen. In other words, to go to America, UK, I don't know, Germany, other countries that are perturbed at the Houthis because of the interfering in the shipping in the Sea of Aden and the Red Sea, and put together a coalition and then start bombing targets in Yemen belonging to the Houthis. Now, the Yemen regular government, which they do have, has about 67,000 troops and about twice that amount the Houthis have. And nobody's really destroyed any substantial number of Houthi troops, maybe in all their air attacks 20, 30, 50, 75, something like that. The Muslim media is saying that America, UK, Israel are trying to persuade the Yemen regular government, not the Houthis, with forceful attacks to stop the Houthis, and that would mean probably not kill them, probably mean get rid of their weapons. Another way they could do it, which is very similar to what happened in Lebanon with the Hezbollah, the Lebanese army could keep them, say, 25 miles away from the coastal areas, which would probably interfere significantly with their attacking the ships. And all these bombing attacks on what they're calling cities that the Houthis have control of in Yemen. In other words, they're like the government in these cities. They're attacking in these cities, getting the missiles and weapons, radar and all that stuff, command centers, the standard operating procedures. However, they're trying to reproduce what happened in Lebanon, but I don't believe it's going to work. And why? Well, it didn't work in Gaza because Hamas was the government, so there's no parallel there. In Lebanon, the Lebanese government per se is only partially Muslim. There's a strong churchianity contingency or Christianity in Lebanon. So that was quite different. So they have occupied a lot of South Lebanon, and they're actually even grabbing weapons from Hezbollah. Not a lot, but they are doing it. And things have been rather quiet from Lebanon. So and things are rather quiet from Gaza. So we're in sort of a peace mode with the Lebanon and the Gaza situation. And the Syria situation, we're also in a peace mode. Now, we have captured extra geographical territory in Lebanon, although they're not saying that. We're occupying Lebanon ourselves with our army up to the Litani River, which is 17, 18 miles from our border. Mind you, rivers go like this, so in one place it could be 17 miles, another 18 miles, that kind of thing. So, I do not believe Israel has any intention of returning that land. But it's interesting, as we're approaching redemption, now we're starting to get land. Very interesting. It's, in my mind, the sign of things to come when we hit redemption. We're not moving people into Lebanon. Some Israelis about a week ago went up there to check it out and see what's going on. And the IDF arrested them. I don't think anything will happen to them. But they'll get a slap on the wrist. They're not going to go to prison or anything like that. I don't believe, unless they find out there was some sort of ominous effort going on, and they had weapons, and they were planning on doing something to heat things up over there or cause some catastrophic damage, which I don't think is the case. We haven't heard much about that, and I don't really think we're going to. I don't even know if they're still in detention or anything. Um, so no Israelis are yet moving into. Well, no, there has been reports of some going into Syria. There has been reports, but I haven't heard of them getting arrested or anything. Maybe they're staying in Syria. I don't know what the deal is with that, but it's rather insignificant. We're going to multiple villages in that area of Syria near Israel. Like we're going from our Golan Heights border. We already are well in the Syrian side of the Golan Heights border, and then we're going all the way into Damascus, just outside of Damascus. So when you add in the Syrian side of the Golan Heights, then we're probably about 30 miles in, which is a very adequate buffer zone because you're going to cut out anti-tank missiles, which Hezbollah and Hamas used. RPGs are not going to be effective. They're cut out. Katyusha rockets, the most those things go is maybe 18 miles, so they're ineffective. They're not going to work. Mortars won't work. Artillery won't work. The only thing that would work is long-range sophisticated missiles, of which I doubt there's very many at all left in Syria, but there could be 50 or 100 laying around someplace. I don't know who would know, you know. But we do strike them when we find out about them. So the HTS, the Jelani, whatever the dude's name is, and his regime running Syria now are trying to blow kisses at Israel and say, you know, we have no interest in having any kind of problems with you, war or anything like that. They yesterday turned an Iranian plane around that was flying over Syrian airspace on its way to Lebanon, I believe. Lebanon still has an airport open. And the HTS in Syria turned the plane around. They said, get out of our airspace. And Iran did. They diverted and had to go up to Turkey and then come to Lebanon through Turkey. So they're going through the motions. But like I said, they're Al Qaeda and ISIS with a new paint job. Inside, the car is the same. The motor's the same. Transmission, the seats, you know, the dashboard. The only thing different is the external paint job. All right, that's it. You know, like painting a tank pink. It's still a tank, but it looks like a toy because it's pink or something. It's, you know, so Israel's rather well aware of this. Okay. Turkey is rumored to start bringing Turkish regular army troops into Syria, but I'm quite sure it would be restricted to northern Syria, where Turkey has a buffer zone, and they will probably stay in the buffer zone, but they will be attacking the SDF, Syrian Defense Forces, which were anti-Assad and backed by America, as well as the Kurds, okay, which are also backed by America, and this is the enemies of Turkey. So Turkey is already with terrorists backed by Turkey in Syria fighting against the Kurds and the SDF, and not American bases. Turkey's not firing on any American bases or soldiers, and I'm not thinking that's going to occur anytime soon, my guesstimate. I don't think Turkey wants to find out what could happen if they turn against the UK, the US, and Israel. That would be a rather dangerous game. For Turkey, one, then I don't think they could win, number one, and I don't know who would come help Turkey. If they were going against America, certainly nobody in NATO would, none of the American allies would, nor the British allies, nor Israel's friends. Well, we really don't have any, other than you want to call America a friend, you know. So I think Turkey talks a lot because that's his role. And America would probably like to see Turkey start a caliphate and control the caliphate and bring it into a non-war mode and just concentrate on economy and health and ecology and stuff like that. It's never going to happen. All right. So we're going to the villages and we're telling them, give us, in Syria, give us your weapons. And they're complying by the truckload. Because everybody in Syria had an AK-47 and many had like squad machine guns. They had RPGs, stuff like that. You know. The same was the case in Lebanon, you know. So this is very new and different, okay? But in the past, Israel took land too, and the Americans made us give it back. Sinai Peninsula, Gaza, for instance, and they've been pushing us for the West Bank to go back. Not hard, though. Not hard. So there's still disarray in Syria. The forces are still against each other. The Druze want Israel to annex their villages down in the south near Israel and Syria, you know, and this crazy stuff, you know. And the HTS are trying to unify the government, and now they're working on merging all the different factions into one umbrella Syrian defense forces, like a military of Syria, and they're all going to wear the same uniform and have a central command, and you know, things like this. They'll probably do that, but they don't have weapons of warfare other than small arms, which is enough to terrorize the population. $300,000 people in the Bashar Assad Syrian army, and 70,000 of these HTS and affiliates came in, and the 300,000 who had jets, tanks, everything else ran away. They put on civilian clothes, they ran into Iraq, and so forth. 2,000 of these soldiers left Iraq and came back into Syria because they were draftees, conscripts. They didn't just volunteer to join. And the HTS realized they had no choice, go in the army or go to jail. So they gave him amnesty. So Iraq said, go back, you're not, you know, a political prisoner, you're not facing, you know, you don't need asylum, you'll be a free man, go back. And they did. Now the ceasefire in Gaza. A lot of the media was saying, oh, it's close, it's close. Well, it's not that close. I'll give you the update. Hamas has still failed to give Israel a list of the living hostages. Okay? Now you have to understand the implications of this. If Israel goes into a ceasefire with them without a list of the living hostages, with just a statement that we'll give you back these hostages, they could come up with 3 hostages and say that's all that's living. Well, if they came out and did that now, people would hit the streets in Israel screaming for their annihilation. I mean, taking civilian hostages is a war crime. If you take soldiers, which they did, you have to treat them as a prisoner of war and put them in some housing and feed them and medical. Okay, you got to treat them civilly. You don't make them slaves for civilian friends of Hamas that use them to clean the house or do the wash or cook or whatever. You don't do that, but they did that. Now, the rumor going around is that in exchange, Israel's saying the first of the hostages should be 34. And what I'm hearing is Hamas is saying that we want 250 terrorist prisoners released from your jails to us in exchange for these 34, but they won't give any names. They're just saying, oh, we'll give you back the women soldiers, the elderly, the sick, the injured, you know. So, at this point, I'd have to say there are some substantial sticking points. Hamas has consistently been afraid to come up with a list of the living hostages. It could be they just want to torment the friends and family of these people, but I doubt it. It's probably more so that they don't have very many. And if they said, well, here's 3 hostages or 8 or something like that, the Israeli public will go nuts and call for their bombing and everything else. So they're talking of phase. First phase, the ceasefire for 60 days, 34 hostages, and then after the 60 days, more hostages and more prisoner exchange, this type of thing. So it doesn't look like it has strong legs right now. Now, mind you, the way, if you don't live in Israel, you probably wouldn't know this, the way they will do this is run it right to the wire. And the wire is January 20th, if all goes well, to America. Trump is sworn in. Okay? And he's the one that said if the hostages aren't back before January 20th, he was speaking all the hostages, they'll be hell to pay. Now, Hamas knows that Trump gets into office January 20th, he's not going to, January 21st or even the 25th, he's not going to be really equipped to mobilize against Hamas. But Trump can get out there and say, I warned them. They didn't listen to me. Now, I've called Netanyahu up and I asked him for a shopping list of what weapons he wants, and we're flying them over, and he will administer the hell to pay on Hamas in Gaza. That's it. Is Trump going to have us go around there and drop 1,100 bombs in 3 or 4 days and kill 50,000 people or something? I don't think so. So Trump made a really wonderful threat, but when I sit there and try to analyze how do you execute this threat, I hit a brick wall. I don't know what to do other than eradicate the people in thousands and thousands and thousands. See, the Muslim fanatical, crazy, psychopathic terrorists don't stop engaging in war unless they have absolutely no weapons to speak of Then they try to become friendly so they could rearm and kill you. The other time they stop is if they're dead or very badly injured. Very badly. That's it. So the Houthis ain't stopping, and Hamas not stopping, and Hezbollah has to stop right now because they can't get away with launching anymore. So Hamas might be waiting to go right to the wire and do something on January 17th, 18th, 19th, or they might wait till the 20th and then try to do something a few days later. See, when Trump gets sworn in, he's going to be lucky if he sleeps 4 or 5 hours a day. He's going to be trying to get his cabinet members appointed. I mean, he's just, got a million things to do. And on top of all of that, he has to mobilize his military being run by the Biden people because he didn't change them yet, and put a thrashing on Hamas, but he can't. Well, I say can't. I don't expect he's going to go in and, tell Israel, move them all out of the north to the south and make sure they got no weapons and they're not Hamas, and then just, drop a couple hundred bombs on the north and then move them back to the north and then do the same thing in the south and wipe out Hamas. And go back and forth. Maybe it takes multiple events like this. So I don't know what Trump has in mind, and Trump himself may not know what he's going to do. It's one thing to threaten, it's another thing to sit down with the Pentagon and work this out. The Pentagon and Netanyahu, it's not such a simple thing to do. Well, CENTCOM said it was friendly fire, but that doesn't impress me. CENTCOM never admitted that destroyers got hit, and one aircraft carrier got hit, and another one got hit, and the Houthis are saying they hit them. So I don't necessarily believe CENTCOM. The American military would rise up in a very animated way if an F-18 jet was struck down by the Houthis and Israel and America didn't go in there and, devastate them. That would be motive. They don't want to ruin the morale of the American military. So I think there'll be more strikes on Yemen. I don't think the government of Yemen is going to do what America and the UK and Israel want. Netanyahu raising a coalition against Yemen might actually be successful. If America and the UK are in on it, which I expect they will be, quite a few may join in the fracas. We'll have to see. Okay? That is not going to scare Yemen, the Houthis in Yemen. If Israel picks up 5 or 6 countries to say we're in, it's not going to stop the Houthis. Remember, they stop when they're dead, or they got, arms and legs missing, that kind of thing, or they have no weapons. Then they have to stop. Edom is going to be a disaster area, completely destroyed. That's Yemen. In Jeremiah 49, which precedes the daughter of Babylon getting it, which starts in Jeremiah 50. So there's the sequencing of events seems to add up nicely. Of course, it's always possible that the prophecies in Jeremiah 49 may fulfill after, but I don't think it's a coincidence that they preceded the daughter of Babylon. I think that's the trigger for the attack on America. Now, there's somebody out there with videos that were taken from a passenger aircraft somewhere in America, and it shows these glowing things following the airplane for about 30 minutes. Now, an airliner is going to run typically circa 550 miles an hour. Now, there's no drone known to anybody in the world that has been able to attain anywhere near that speed. So now they're saying these things, and it was multiples of this stuff, whatever it was. Number one, it could be a phony video, but there's other reports like this. Not following airplanes per se, but there's been other reports, so we don't know what it is. It could be false. It's not aliens. There's nothing in the Bible like that, and the firmament doesn't allow for it. There's no aliens, and it might be real, and there could be, but that would mean they were aircraft. So how the heck is China flying aircraft in America outside of the land at the high side, 350,000 acres of land they have? How could that be? They would have to build runways to take off and land. They would need control towers. It sounds so unlikely. So it could be phony, or it could be, I don't know what. Did they make a drone that goes 550 miles an hour? Well, I doubt it, but you never know. But I would have grave doubts that's possible. So we don't know what's going on here. Right at the forefront, I'd have to say phony videos, but it could be real. I don't know. All right, let's continue. Iraq is doing nothing but laying low and trying to fortify their border, expecting some trouble from HTS in Syria. And Iran is out there flapping its jaws. There's all kinds of chatter from the Muslim pro-terrorist media that they're, every day, oh, they got a new weapon, they got a new bomb, they got a new, it's just, these are the Muslim terrorist media, probably supported by Iran, that are trying to keep people in the game by thinking Iran's making a comeback. I don't see that at all. Is attacking Yemen going to cause a big war in the Middle East? Absolutely not. By itself, no. Yemen asked for it. They acted stupidly. China's not going to come in and help them for curtailing shipping in the Red Sea, nor would Russia, nor would Iran. So it's going to basically fall dead. That's it. Then I would say the next target would be Iraq. And then after they've gotten Iraq demilitarized, then they'll move on Iran, because when they get rid of Iraq, with Syria and Iraq, they have land access to Iran. Iraq has land border with Iran, so they can roll in. But I think Yemen's days are about over. I think we'll see more strikes by the U.S. and U.K., and America may try to form a coalition with Israel to get more countries in. India initially at the beginning of this Red Sea stuff sent 10 warships over to the Red Sea and then pulled them back. Now, India doesn't have a great deal of respect or use for Iran right now, but Iran is probably selling India oil because I believe they exempted India from the sanctions on Iran. Okay? Russia, Ukraine hit a 21-story apartment building inside Russia. That has got to be freaking out the Russian people, and they're still going back and forth. Ukraine's destroying ammo depots, oil refineries, train tracks, all kinds of stuff inside Russia, and Russia keeps attacking Ukraine. And it's the same old story. One week Ukraine's winning, the next week Russia, then Ukraine, then, they're just destroying each other, which is making NATO rather happy, I think, because it's weakening Russia tremendously. Russia has got no signs of remaining in Syria. People were saying they might work a deal with HTS, but they're not, because they were pro-Syria and they don't trust, pro-Assad, and they don't trust them and they don't want them there. So Russia's been transferring the weapons out of Syria to Libya and probably setting up shop in Libya. And that's basically what we got going on. Um, so, again, in my opinion, I think we're going to see more and more attacks as Biden gets closer to attacking Iran. Like I said, Yemen's got to be neutered where they can't do much, like Gaza and like Hamas and Hezbollah. And then Iraq. But Iraq would be an extremely easy target to hit. The only time that would be difficult is if Iran sent 100 or 200,000 soldiers in there with artillery, tanks, armored vehicles, mortars, and, all this stuff. And I don't think Iran is going to take a chance like that. No. Mm-mm. So it looks like Yemen's on the front burner and the back burner is Iraq. And then I think Biden could very likely hit Iran just before January 20th and give Trump an inheritance of a massive mess on his hands. And while Trump's a bright person, I don't know if he's going to be able to overcome this, because he's got to not overthrow, he's got to revamp the military, and it's going to be a hard one. I'll be right back. some of you may have noticed that in recent 2 weeks or so, North Korea has been rather quiet. No crazy missile tests provoking Japan, and no serious threats on North Korea. Nothing. On South Korea. Nothing. I think they're getting nervous about Trump. And China's not been circling Taiwan recently either, with ships and planes. So I think they're getting scared and about Trump, and they don't know what to do. Either that, or they intend to make a big move, and they're playing their cards close to the chest. Don't know which is the correct on that. Now, we need to talk about Christmas. There was an attack in Germany the other day on a Christmas mall. 200 people injured and a bunch of people killed by a car ramming. So this was a guy from Saudi Arabia. The Saudis warned the German government about this guy 3 times. They didn't do anything. It was one guy, lone wolf, not a sophisticated attack, an immature idiot attack, but it caused a lot of damage. So I would caution you guys to be quite careful where you go between now and not just Christmas. The day after Christmas is that big shopping day where people run in to get sales and exchange gifts and return things and stuff like that. So I would say until the 27th, I'd be pretty careful. I wouldn't go, if you live in a city less than, 300,000 or 400,000, and you're not near a military base, I don't think they're going to bother you. Where they would likely go is where there's large Jewish populations, which, Chicago, New York, Boston, Miami, maybe Atlanta, Los Angeles. Those are the big ones. And if you live in a place with 50,000 or 30,000 people, I don't think you're gonna get. I don't think it'll fall there. They may hit churches. They probably focus on Catholic churches because of the graven image idols, but I don't know. So I know you're not going to go to Catholic churches, but I would kind of be cautious about going to these places now through the 26th, because they might hit on the 26th because they know there's intense crowds in the stores on that day, and the guard of law enforcement may be down because Christmas is over. Once you get to the evening of Christmas Eve, people are off the streets, you know that. After about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, or by 5 o'clock, people are off the streets, and they're not back on the streets till the 26th. Oh, they drive to their friends and stuff like that, but that's about it. Relatives, friends, but they're not going and collecting in big places, so I would be careful. Now, there might not be a serious attack. It might just be lone wolf fanatics doing it, but we don't know. Nobody's telling us what the mullahs and the mosques are calling for, and I would say just exercise caution. I wouldn't go to synagogues, not that you would go either, but synagogues don't have services for Christmas. But let's see when the rabbinical Hanukkah is. Let me check the live stream while I'm here. Not many people came in today, surprising. Let me look it up. I don't keep track of the rabbinical holidays. I remember a few times growing up in New York, Hanukkah fell over the Christmas school break. Oh, it started already? No, that's next year. I gotta get this year. Oh my gosh. We got a double whammy here. I'm glad I checked. I've seen this a few times in my life. Since 1900, Hanukkah fell on Christmas Day 5 times. I remember once or twice in my life seeing this. Usually we would have Hanukkah before the Christmas break. And we used to make fun of the, churchianity people. I was not a believer, and we'd say, well, we get presents every day, for a week. You only get them once on Christmas. So anyway, it falls on Christmas Day. Hanukkah starts in the evening, December 25th through January 2nd. And like I told you, this happened only 5 times since 1900, which is 124 years. That's a double whammy. So if they were going to do a reign of terror, they could hit on Hanukkah and Christmas on the same day, but it would be Christmas evening. Christmas evening, people are home. They're tired because they ate a lot of high glycemic index foods like stuffing and turkey and breads and cake and ice cream and candy and all this stuff. Maybe they had booze and they're getting drowsy and tired. And it's kind of, you stay in the house with your friends and relatives. A lot of people are out of town, or you go home. Now, I would highly, highly recommend you don't go to anything like Disney, Great America, any amusement park of any type. I wouldn't go near them. I would stay out of malls. Now, the synagogues have a Hanukkah service. The Hanukkah is not really in the Bible as a holiday, like Leviticus 23. It doesn't say you shall go up and do this on Hanukkah. It's not in there. Okay, Yeshua mentioned it as the festival of lights, which are the candles they light, but he didn't say we should observe it. There's nowhere in the law that we're told to observe this holiday, but the rabbis do it. The rabbis also created a holiday called Rosh Hashanah that doesn't exist in the Bible per se. And they call that the New Year's. But a bunch of people might go to the synagogues. When I remember in New York, and I grew up in a neighborhood that was probably 99.9% Jewish, it's a large neighborhood, and there were many such neighborhoods in the Bronx and Brooklyn and a little bit in Queens at that time. All Hanukkah was, you'd go out and play ball and do what you wanted, and you came home, and then your parents would have you light the candles and say the little recital of the Hanukkah. And you would have the main candle called the Shemesh, and then the other candle, the first candle, and you'd light the Shemesh first in the holder. They had rituals for this, and then you would pick the candle up and light the other candle and put the Shemesh back in the holder. And then and you would get the cheaper, less valuable gifts on the first day of Hanukkah, and they would progress. One of the most popular gifts was they made what, I don't know the right term for it, chocolate coins covered in gold aluminum foil, sometimes silver aluminum foil, made to look like money. But of course it wasn't money. And you'd eat it, you know. And then, you know, I don't know, if your mother was trying to be cute, she'd buy you a new coat or a sweater for Hanukkah, and you go, you know. Yeah, you know, whatever they would give you, you know. But it wasn't that you had to go to the synagogue, you didn't have to fast, you didn't have to do anything. You just would light the candles and then you say Happy Hanukkah, you know. It wasn't. Now, in the ultra-Orthodox, how did I grow up? My parents kept the house kosher, not just clean food. You know, the Moses law says there's clean and unclean food, pertaining just to animals, birds, and fish. There is no such thing as a unclean fruit and vegetable. So if you're a lunatic, you can go out and eat poison ivy, or poison oak. You have to be a derelict to do that. But so we didn't have the unclean animals in the house, and all the food we did have was kosher by the rabbis, which is not in the Bible at all. And now, you know, the rabbis don't follow Moses' law. So my parents would go take me every now and then to the Chinese restaurant in the neighborhood, which served pork and other things. And they would never let me eat anything like shrimp, lobster, or pork. Those were the only unclean things I think they had. Oh, clams too. They never let me get any of those things. But to the real Orthodox people, the ultra-Orthodox, they wouldn't go to a Chinese restaurant because the tables, the benches, the silverware, the plates, the kitchen are exposed to unclean food. But the chicken that we normally had in the Chinese restaurant, like chicken chow mein, was not rabbinically kosher, but she did it anyway. So, you know, the only place in the neighborhood you could get unclean food was the Chinese restaurants, and they had an Italian restaurant that was called Allegros, and it was great. And they had the pizza stores would put pepperoni and sausage on it if you wanted it, you know, that kind of thing. So I never saw my parents or grandparents eat in pizza stores. My grandparents, and the ones that came from the old country, I never saw them eat in the Chinese restaurants either. The delis in the neighborhood were kosher, and people would eat there. The popular things were corned beef, pastrami, brisket of beef. That's all beef. Chicken in the deli was not popular. Hot dogs, which were kosher. And then they had knishes, which had no meat in it. They had a potato knish and a kosher knish, and they had French fries. It was really about it, you know. It's about it. That's what they had. Didn't have much else. But it was darn good. I used to love those corned beef sandwiches, and I used to get the hot dogs, and they used to be 25 cents, I remember, and the guy would put mustard and potato salad on it, or you could get coleslaw. No, sauerkraut, rather. Some people would use coleslaw. That was yucky. Sauerkraut people liked. I liked potato salad. I think they charged you a nickel for the potato salad or something. And they had the greatest pickles. They were really big. When I was a kid, they had a pickle stand in the neighborhood, and the guy basically didn't have a real store. He had like an indentation in a building that he built walls and a ceiling for. And he had these big barrels, like 50-gallon barrels, I guess, or something, of pickles. They had different kinds of pickles, sweet, sour. They had pickled, these green round things were pickled peppers. They pickled those. It was great. All of it was great. But that went away by the mid-60s, 70s. They were gone. They still exist in some places, I think. I'll be right back in a second. Something I forgot to tell you. The last night, I think it was, or yesterday, the Houthis said they were going to destroy Israel. Not just put missiles in Tel Aviv, destroy Israel. So their head is on the chopping block, I would say. They're psychotic. They're like serial killers that are crazy, you know? How are they going to destroy Israel? They don't care if you destroy them. If they get killed, they get their 70 virgins, they're happy. If they don't get killed and they hurt you, they're happy. And as long as they're still alive, they believe they won. It's a very difficult situation with these people. They're like I'm telling you, they're like serial killers. Everything with them is death. Let's check the live stream. I don't think I got any more garbage coming in. So there's going to be strikes on Yemen by Israel from this. But you're not going to scare them and you're not going to teach them a lesson. That's not going to happen. You got to annihilate them. Or get rid of their weapons. Which is what Israel's probably going to try to do. Nobody is going to come to the aid of Yemen that I could think of. India might think it's time to get rid of them, I don't know. Thinking who else might. Germany might. France might. Maybe Italy. About it. I don't know. I've never seen Israel build a coalition, but I never saw, you know, Hezbollah wasn't attacking shipping in the Mediterranean. They threatened, but they never did. Hamas wasn't doing it either, but the Houthis are. So this could go badly for them because some of the people in Europe that have been affected by this might send more ships and planes. Now, the Houthis are very likely to cut the internet cables, and that'll really be the end of them. But I think it looks like it's going down. I could be wrong, it may take longer, but it looks like it's going down. Next stop would be Iraq. If Biden wants to, he could do like a false flag or something with Iran just before the inauguration, and then Trump inherits a super mess. I'm not seeing China and North Korea get active right now. If anything, they seem to be calming down. China told Russia to cut it out with the nuclear threats. Looks like China's not so, I don't know, but the drones look like they're Chinese, so you don't know. China may see its role in this thing as sending the sleeper agents in, and that's it. But you're definitely seeing escalations in Europe with Russia and Ukraine, no doubt. And you're going to see a big escalation with Yemen. I can't believe they're not going to go start smashing Yemen very quickly any day. Probably this coming week. So let's go to spiritual warfare stuff. Someone asked me a while ago to witness to somebody to try to get him out of churchianity. This person couldn't do it. So it was on the phone. I spoke to the person. And as soon as I started speaking to the person, I said under my breath that I doubt he could hear it. I cancel and make null and void any and all witchcraft, sorcery, spells, enchantments designed to affect or target this person, B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach. And I felt something change with this guy. And he also sighed a little bit. I mean, maybe something, something like that. Not that pronounced, but I detected it. It was my discernment that was doing it. Something changed, okay? Then I did under my breath, so I doubt he could hear it. I command you unclean spirits to come out of this person immediately, B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach. No reaction to that, nothing. It wasn't an accident that the Lord had this happen. So I read the scriptures to the guy, focusing a lot on the Sabbath, how they have no right to change it to Sunday, and you can't change it because it's the day the Lord rested after he built the universe, and how can you change that date? It's impossible, all this stuff. And I went through a few other things with him. I didn't get too far. But this person was infatuated with the leader of the church. The leader of the church was, spinning tales to the people about how great he was, and probably using the eye contact and having the other witches in the church do spells and enchantments and sorcery and so forth on the people. And the people are in sin in the church, and it works. But there's 2 billion people going to churchianity, 1 billion in the Catholic stuff and 1 billion in the evangelical, Pentecostal, nominal stuff, rough figures. I think there's 3,500 divisions, seditions, denominations. And the Messianic congregations have those divisions too. They call them umbrella organizations, like Union of Messianic Congregations. They have another one. They have at least 2 of them. They probably have 3 by now. No, different doctrinal statements, the same stuff as the church. Jewish churches. So they don't have enough demons to fill everybody in the church with the demons. 2 billion? No, I don't think there are that many. So they put witchcraft, sorcery, spells, and enchantments on them. So if you want to bring people out of it, and you're demon tossing them before you talk to them or while you're talking to them or something like that, you're not going to get the desired effect because there's no demon to come out of them. So you're commanding a demon to come out of this person that's not in the person, so it's not going to do anything. Yet the witchcraft, sorcery, spells, enchantments are still going to be on that person. So I suggest you start with the witchcraft, sorcery, spells, enchantments, break them in the name of Yeshua HaMashiach, and then do the toss just in case. If somebody is close to understanding the scriptures and getting outspoken with other people, then maybe they'll try to put a demon in or something, but I don't think it's that common. It happens, but I don't think it's that common. So I think you might get better results that way with friends and family. But I would suggest you do both just to cover your bases. If you command demons to come out of some person and you don't really know if they're in that person or not, and there is no demon in that person, so what? I don't see that as a sin. You meant well. Trying to deliver the person from a cursed thing. But if there is a demon, you got a victory. But the chances of there being witchcraft, sorcery, spells, and enchantments on the person is massively high. That's how they keep the people in. That's how they get them to give offerings. They basically put the people to sleep and make them think that what's going on is a real church. The Lord's church, when it's really not. Then people get blinded by this witchcraft, spells, and enchantments, so it may help you. So I know a lot of you want to bring family and friends out of this, especially when we're hitting, we're going to the end of the year of recompenses, and you might get some success this way. Now, it doesn't mean they're going to just flip over and say, oh, I'm never going to church again. You have to start building with them the errors in the church and explaining to them that you can't be in a church that contradicts Yeshua on so many points and topics. when the rapture is, the last day. John 6, 39, 40, 44, and 54. The last day means there's no more days. So it's after the millennium is over, after Satan's release, gathers them like the sand of the sea to surround Jerusalem. Father God, Jehovah, comes down from heaven and burns them up. Don't try to do a lot of the little details in prophecy. Okay? I wouldn't do that. Galatians 5, 19 to 21 is very good if they're in a denomination. If they're in a non-denominational church, they're going to turn around and tell you, oh, I don't go to a denominational church, or I go to a house church. So try to know your target and what kind of church they're in before you use that one. Chances are they're not doing murder and adultery and drunkenness, stuff like that, okay? They could be, but uncleanness in the Greek doesn't mean that they were unclean by Moses' Torah. Let me get into that word with you. I just found this out yesterday. It's not pertaining to Moses' law or the law in general or anything. Let me look it up for you. Strong's was pretty helpful on this. It's in Galatians 5:19. Uncleanness is the Greek 167 word by Strong's. It means lewdness, impurity of motive. That was not Strong's. Now Strong says impurity, physically or morally uncleanness. Thayer's says physical in a moral sense, the impurity, lustful, luxurious, profligate living, impure motives. So it's not that they, did something in Moses' law. It's, it has a lot to do, the meaning of the word, with the motive and their intent, the way they're living and stuff like that. It's probably not a great word to try to explain to them. But the seditions is a good one to go after, and the variance. Now, you may not get anywhere with that, because, they don't always understand it. We all went to the church and probably read that or had it in a Bible study, and we didn't pick up on it, The rapture is a really good one to go after them with, because they're all screwed up with the pre-trib, the mid-trib, the post-trib. That's a good one. And they're all waiting for the rapture. I'll be right back. Now, many of these people, if not all, are very concerned about the events in the world right now. Okay? And probably 99+% of the people in churchianity don't know when the rapture really is. They're basically divided between pre-trib, mid-trib, and post-trib. Amillennial is another false doctrine. And the Catholic Church is really amillennial. And Lutheran, I think Church of Christ, Episcopalian, Presbyterian, quite a few. Amillennial is a rather absurd doctrine. This is how it works. Christ, Yeshua, rose up to heaven, seated on the right hand of God the Father. They ignore the scripture, Psalm 110:1. The Lord said to my Lord, sit thou at my right hand until I make your enemies your footstool. So he's not really reigning yet. He will when he comes down to earth again. But his enemies will be made his footstool by then, by Jehovah. So, they don't know that. Certainly can enlighten them. So they believe that this is the millennium because Yeshua is reigning in heaven, the way they put it. And what they expect is just one day the whole earth is going to burn up and blow up and they're going to go to heaven. And they don't really have place for a kingdom on earth with Yeshua in New Jerusalem. And they have no room at all for the restoration of Israel to Jehovah. Nothing. A lot of these churches that follow that they do mass, like the wafer and the grape juice like the Catholics do, which is really wicked. So you probably don't know a lot of people in amillennial, but they're out there. They're typically quite nominal in terms of they go to church. They like a Sunday service that's 45 minutes, not an hour and a half. And they don't know much about their Bible. And, it is what it is. Okay. Some of you might know people that are going to name it and claim it. Churches. Those churches tend to be obsessed with gathering wealth, which is a lot of the meaning of that word uncleanness. So they tend to focus heavily on the carnal things of life, using the spiritual to attain the carnal type of stuff, right? They're not really big on end times doctrines. For the most part, they're pre-trib rapture. But they'll every now and then touch on end times, but that's not their focus at all. Their focus is, listen to me and you'll know why you're not getting healed. Listen to me and you know why you're not rich. Listen to me and you know why your children are rebellious and you could fix all these things. That's basically what their approach is. Um, they're normally going to be in a denomination, and you just got to look for what these people believe in from this church. Break the witchcraft, sorcery, spells, enchantments, toss them, and then try to work and show them in the scriptures what they're doing wrong with their different beliefs. A tremendous amount of these people stay in these churches briefly, maybe 3 months to a year or two, and then they leave. It's not that many really stay. They have a high transition rate. A lot of their stuff is lying tall tales from the leaders of these churches. I remember I went to one once up in Seattle many years ago. I think it was Seattle, yeah. And the guy right in front of his church where they held the services had his Rolls Royce. He had a very recent model Rolls Royce. It said "blessed" on the license plate. See? Some of them get carnal. I'll explain. This one, I was with a friend, and we went in there, and they had greeters that were women hugging you, hugging men. Now, that's wrong. To do that, they don't know who you are, and it's, crazy. Even Walmart doesn't do that with their greeters. So, you gotta just see what this kind of person's chasing after. Normally it's money or getting healed. Now they do fake healings. hmm They have shills come in and make believe they're healed and stuff like that. They're pretty wicked. Okay, pretty wicked. Catherine Coleman was one of those. Copeland, Seville, Oral Roberts. I think his kid now. There's about a half of the Shambach was one. I think he's dead. I had a number of them. They travel around. They hold meetings. They sell lots of books and DVDs about it. And they take things in the scripture and they twist it, is what they do. Okay? And their goal is to get as much money out of the people as quick as they can. Okay? One of the best ways to approach somebody in a church like that is go after the whole church with spiritual warfare. Find out when they have their meetings and do a demon dump on the whole place. Continually. You'll wreck the guy's church eventually if you stay at it diligently. You can cancel all the witchcraft, sorcery, spells, enchantments ever emanating forth from any of the pastors, the leaders, or other church witches in the place, elders, or whatever they want to call them, or just people in the audience that work for the demons. Cancel all their witchcraft, sorcery, spells, enchantments. Now they have to start over from scratch redoing these people, and then you do it again and again, and it's eventually going to fall apart if you stay with it. Any church. See, these people don't understand the eye contact, that these people are going to look in their eyes intently when they do the witchcraft, and they don't get that. Nobody teaches them. We're not ignorant of Satan's devices. They are. They don't get it. They don't understand this is the evil eye or this or this, you know. They don't get that. They just don't get it. And it's not just the pastor. There's a troop of Satan bots that go to the church. If you're talking a church with 700-800 people, there's probably 20 or 30 people, couples that are Satan bots that are helping the pastor do this. That's their contribution to Satan's kingdom. And if the pastor's a man, I'm telling you, the wife is the one that's holding the steering wheel. Much experience in this. Satan prefers to use women, right back to Adam and Eve. Go after the wife and his kids. Go after the youth ministry, the music ministry, the Bible study leaders, the whatever else they got. You know. Diligently. Every time they have a meeting, dump them. And see what happens to the people. You don't have to go to every person that this pastor and his crew put witchcraft and sorcery and spells and enchantments on. Just cancel any witchcraft, sorcery, spells, and enchantments they ever did in their entire life. Make them null and void for all time. B'Shem Yeshua Mashiach, it's done. Then toss them. Normally, I think when you toss them, the spells, witchcraft, and enchantments are usually gone. But there's multiple people in these large churches that are putting the witchcraft and the spells and enchantments on the people. It's not just the pastor. So, you know, you get it all. You go with a 360 approach. Speaking of this, somebody sent in a request, and I'll explain this to you. And I think it's a nice person, a very sincere individual. And it goes like this. The initials are NF, Norman Frank. NF, Norman Frank. NF. Request is to cancel any witchcraft, sorcery, spells, enchantments on this person and do a toss as well. For NF. Cancel any witchcraft, sorcery, spells, enchantments on this person and do a toss. Now, the chances of you guys having a demon, if you're asking me to throw a demon out of you, is rather minuscule. Okay? But it could happen, but the demon would be acting up if you did something like that. I was once doing prison ministry a gazillion years ago, and I was leading some guy to the Lord, and he's with another friend of mine, and he started shaking like a leaf. I mean, it was like he was going into some sort of medical condition, and it stopped when we finished with the prayer. So you got to understand that the demon is not going to be happy about this person trying to get other people to demon toss him that can demon toss him. So he'll probably stop that person, you know, by convincing him it's silly or something like that, you know. Now you're talking about a demon that's in some person that doesn't want the demon there and doesn't know the demon's there. So the demon has to be subtle about things, right? Now you have people that are, you know, crazy, overtly crazy, and they have a demon, and they don't know the demon is there, and they don't want the demon, but some of them do know there's a demon there and want the demon, but the demon is mean to them at the same time and ruins their life. Okay? I remember once when I was a deputy sheriff working in the jail, there was a guy that we had on a suicide watch. We didn't have cameras then, I'm old. We didn't even wear bulletproof vests back then, we had revolvers. But you had he was in a solitary cell. I think it was padded. We used to pad some cells. It was basically gymnast mats that were old things. They were maybe as much as this thick. And we put them on the walls and the floor and the inside of the door and stuff like that, so they couldn't smash the head or anything like that. And you took shoelaces away, belts away, or anything that you'd think they might hang themselves with. And I think he had to sleep on the mats, if I remember correctly. But there was a card, and you had to open up the window on the door. Of course, you stood back to make sure nobody was going to give you Three Stooges in the eye or something, you know. And you had to stand back and look at him, and you know. So what this guy was doing is he was plucking hair out of his beard and putting it in a little medicine cup. Apparently, he was being given something by the jail nurse, probably some sort of tranquilizer. A lot of them were on tranquilizers. If the people in the prison, it's pretty easy to get tranquilizers because they don't want trouble. And they don't mind sedating them because the pills don't cost that much. They use not state of the art, they use generic stuff. And it's cheaper than having to deal with, you know, murders and fights and riots and property destruction. So anyway, he was making, and he told me he was making an offering to some demons or gods with the hair. This is a lunatic that liked the demons. I was in an emergency room once with somebody else many years ago, and there was a guy that came in on an ambulance, and they had put restraints on this guy because he was completely Looney Tunes. And he was smiling and laughing, trying to look in my eyes and stuff like that. He was full of demons, you know. And they ruined their life. But they're not necessarily going to do that to the people that want them there. Okay? They're more or less going to want to stay there and work with the person to destroy other people's lives in the church, right? That's what the church is about. So they're going to stay there, you know, and not try to destroy the person. Okay, now I've told you this before. Some of these people you meet that are false believers will tell you, oh, the Lord gave me a new heart. Well, a lot of times what that is this person had a demon in him. And the demon was doing something to his heart. Now, this is a person that gives himself over to the demons. So he's giving place to the devil in a huge way. So, then they do some sort of healing seance or whatever the heck they do. Well, the guy asked Satan to heal him. And then Satan tells the demon, stop hurting his heart. And he stops hurting his heart, and then the guy said, well, I've been healed. A lot of these phony healing preachers that hit the road with tent shows will look for somebody in the audience that way, and his demon will communicate with the demon in that person to do a phony healing. And they'll pray for the person, and now the person can move their back or their leg or whatever, right? Whatever was bothering them. Sometimes they get out of a wheelchair. The demon was doing it to them. And then you find out that within a few weeks or months, quite a few of these people are back in the same condition again. Because the demon never leaves. Just stops oppressing the physical part of their body and then starts up again. They also use actors or shills. You know. God's not accomplishing healing with the likes of these false preachers. Come on. Satan can't heal. So how does it happen? Well, he doesn't really heal. He has the demons stop oppressing him. Yeshua prayed for this woman once that she had some physical ailment. And he said, why should Satan be oppressing this child of Abraham, you know? And healed her. Probably by throwing the demon out of her. I can't remember the passage, but it was like that. So, yeah, it could happen. There was a kid who had a demon, and demons were throwing him in the water and having him throw himself down and stuff like that. Yeshua set him free. So when you toss the demons out of some of these people, some of their physical ailments may lift. But the demons try to come back and work with that person. If the person is some sort of a valuable asset to them, they're going to try to get back in that person, a different demon or the same demon or something, and keep that people working for them, that person working for them. Okay? Now, my experience is if you keep tossing the person relentlessly over a period of a few weeks, they're not going to keep coming back in that person for a long time. They don't want to get retossed. Okay? So if you're trying to save a friend or a relative, be relentless and keep it up. They'll try to wear you down. And there's more of them than there are you, so you just relentlessly keep doing it. The people serving the demons don't care that the demons go to the dry place. They don't care. Because they don't go anywhere, nothing happens to them. They are more than happy to stay in the game. Satan probably lies to them about how bad it is or something, you know. That's how he keeps them in the game. Another thing you could talk to him about is Ezekiel 38 and 39. And show him right at the beginning, the first several verses of Ezekiel 38. Israel's living without bars and walls, at peace and safety and rest, with a lot of cattle, gold, and silver. And when you explain to them that it's not for today, they're gonna, the church will teach them the fallback would be, well, the man of sin speaking peace hasn't yet come, but he will. And then Israel will get rich. You know, this sort of nonsense, right? So, be prepared for that, but you will get them to agree with you that Gog and Magog can't be for now. Yet look at the world. Okay. Then you could try taking them to Zechariah 12 and open that for them. All along, keep asking them why the church doesn't teach them this stuff. Don't tell them why, because then they're going to get back up. Now you're calling their pastor in the church demonic. Defensive, but ask them why. And that's different. Why do you think they don't teach you this? Any ideas? And you'd say it's obvious in the scriptures. Why don't they teach us? See, that's not going to scare them away. I think most of the time you're going to get, I don't know. Now, that is going to be likely to take some of these people that actually care about not understanding the scriptures, which is not very many of them, back to the pastor or the elders, asking them why. And that makes more work for the church guys, the evil ones. And if you back that up by continuing to toss this person, because now they may try to throw a demon in this person to keep him from the truth. So you demon toss the guy and cancel the witchcraft, sorcery, spells, enchantments. Go after the pastor, the elders, their wives, the ministers in the church, the Satan bots in the church, and toss. You get rid of them. They'll probably just let this guy go. They'll stop trying to keep him there. And that's fine. That's a victory. But then keep after the church if you want. Now, you could read in Mark 16, I think it's verse 17. These signs shall follow those that believe in my name, they shall cast out devils. Now, this is a really good one to use if you want to see this person thrown out of the church. Okay? Take them to Luke 10, cover the scriptures that where there's 70 come back and said, in your name the demons are subject unto us. So it goes above and beyond just telling the demon to get out of them. Anything they could do, you could undo. Explain that to them. Then harp on Mark 16, 17. Why did Yeshua tell us these signs shall follow them that believe? It didn't say these signs shall follow some of those that believe. It's a sign of being a believer. And it's not evidence in these churches. And you start talking with that, they're going to be on the road to getting thrown out of the church. My story, many years ago, in the church, ministry to the prisons, and I also went to a juvenile center. And I was the only one that went to the juvenile center. And it was kids, they were locked up in a facility. They had to attend school during the day. They had a playground, basketball, softball, or something, you know. They had rooms and stuff. I think they had solitary cells, so more like a lousy hotel room, you know, like 10 by 12 or something, where it had a bed and it had a desk or something. And it didn't have bars. It had a window high up that was reinforced. And it had a door that was rather solid, probably metal, and it had a window, maybe 8 by 5 or something, so the guys can go by and look in. So I would bring cookies and soda and stuff, and they would come to the Bible study. Sometimes I'd go there and nobody would show up. Not, that was rare, but it did happen. And they would make the announcement and make it again. They were very nice, and they'd say, well, I'm sorry, you know, nobody came. Yeah, it happens. I'll pack up and go. And I just left. But generally people came. So this kid comes, and, you know, what are you in for? Oh, I was burglary. Okay. And he was gravitating to the scriptures and coming to the Bible studies quite a few times. And then, I don't know, 2 months later or 3 months or something like that. Maybe 6 or 8 weeks, I don't remember. He's not there anymore. What happens? Oh, he got out. Oh, okay. Forgot about him. A short period later, maybe 2, 3, 4 weeks after, he's back in. What happened? Oh, I don't know. Something came over me. I was doing burglary again. I don't know why. I don't know why I did it, you know. So I said, I don't know, maybe you got a demon. You want me to throw the demon out of you? He says, yeah. So I start tossing the demon out in Yeshua's name, and before I think I was saying Jesus back then. And before I finished even, the kid looks at me and says, it left. I believe at some point I prayed for him to receive the Holy Spirit. I can't remember entirely. This is over 30 years ago, you know. So then the kid's demeanor changed. He was happy. And then he got out of jail very quickly after that. I don't think he was there the next week. The Lord got him out. And months later, he finds me in this church. I was still going to the church. And, hey, I just wanted to see. I know the church you went to. I'm doing really great. Thanks, you know. I'm this, that. My life's really changed. Back then, none of us. I hadn't come out of the church yet completely, so I was very happy. He was really a nice kid. What did the church do to me after this? That's the point. They went nuts. They went nuts. They told me, we're putting somebody in charge of that juvenile hall ministry. And they dragged some Satan bot out of the church, and he was going to be in charge of me, right? One of the pastors came to me and wanted to know what material I was giving out to these people. Maybe he thought I was teaching demon tossing, which I wasn't. So I said, sure, come. And I had contacted some prison ministries and told them what I was doing through what church, and they sent me material. There were little soft cover books of Matthew and John. Those were easy to get from them. Getting actual soft covered New Testaments was not that easy, but not that hard. Getting a whole Bible soft cover was near impossible from them. I had a few of them. But I give the John and the Matthew out like candy. I didn't care, I give it to everybody because you could get all you want. I get you big bundles of them. So he looks in I open the trunk of my car. I go, look, here's what it is. He's looking through it. What's he going to say? Book of Matthew, Book of John, New Testament, Old and New Testament Bible. He couldn't say anything. He was all perturbed. And that was the days when they were approaching the times I left the church. I realized something was wrong. Okay. So if I look back, I guess the Lord had this kid get caught, come back to the juvenile hall, because he was a kid that weren't going to do anything to him, and then he had me minister to the kid. The kid received and made it, and it also woke me up to that the church was really bad. Why didn't the pastor teach the people how to throw demons out of people, like what I'm doing with you all now? Why don't they do that? It's obvious, isn't it? Now, Benny Hinn and Copeland go through the motion of throwing demons out of people, but it's ridiculous. They're just putting on an act. They're not throwing demons at anybody. Let me check the live stream. Okay. What other things can you get into with them? Variants in Galatians 5:19-21. They have different doctrines, not just the pre-trib, mid-trib, post-trib. Pray in tongues, don't pray in tongues. House church, building church. Denomination, no denomination. Baptize in the Holy Spirit, don't baptize in the Holy Spirit. Stuff like this, right? And explain variants to him, and then say that the church is pretty much take a posture of, we don't know which doctrine is right and which is wrong, so we just accept everybody's doctrine as if they're correct, because we don't know any better. And this is variance, and this is wrong. Okay? This is wrong. Because it's teaching the people you can't know the truth about the scriptures, and that's evil. Then you can take them into Matthew 7. Let me get you to verse. Well, with the law, actually it's Matthew 5, I think 17. Think not that I came to destroy the law, but to fulfill it. For as long as there's a heaven and earth, not one jot or tittle shall be done away with from the law. Now, you teach them that and say the churches are teaching the law is done away with. Well, Paul said, without the law there'd be no sin. So if there was no law, what would be the problem with murder other than the secular government? Okay, so leave murder out. What would be the problem with drunkenness? Secular government doesn't care if you're drunk as long as you don't do it in public or behind the wheel. You think they care if you sit in your house and have 10 shots of scotch? As long as you stay in your house, you don't make a debacle out of yourself. They could care less. Have a good drunk, they'll tell you. They don't care. It's your constitutional right to be drunk if you want to, right? Adultery, they don't care if you do adultery. What's the problem? Do adultery. John the Baptist had the Holy Spirit placed inside him when he was in the womb. So if the baby in the womb has the Holy Spirit in him, obviously it's, I don't know the right word, a life form. It's a living person. Happens to be inside the womb. So when you kill it with an abortion, are you not committing murder? Seem obvious you are. You could prove that to them with the Holy Spirit inside John the Baptist in the womb, because God's not going to put the Holy Spirit in something that's not alive. Like, he's not going to put the Holy Spirit in a pickle barrel, okay, or a chair or something like that, or a dead body. So it's alive. It's a life. They're taking a life. So if you kill your own baby, is that not murder? Well, if you gave birth to the baby and it's a year old and you took its feet and swung it and smashed its head in the wall and killed it, you'd be a murderer, right? So just because it's in the womb and you kill it, you're not a murderer. Because society says it's okay. Are you getting any of this? Okay. Fornication. You go through this with them to jump right in and try to teach them that the churches, all of them, have another Jesus, the December 25th version. This is silly. It's, yeah, you can get it across to them after they have some grounding in the church isn't really what they say they are. But I wouldn't jump in with that. 2 Corinthians 11:4 is the scripture. And that's probably, I mean, you could try using it, but they're going to just say it doesn't apply to their church, likely. I'll read it to you. For if he that cometh preacheth another Jesus, so yes, that's possible. And you could use it for that purpose, to explain to him it is possible to do that. Whom we have not preached. Or you receive another spirit, which you have not received from them, from the apostles. Or another gospel, which you have not accepted, you might bear with him. So you could explain to them it's possible to have another gospel, and they do. They do. You could take them into, well, Christmas is almost over, but you could take them into Jeremiah 10. Well, you could use it after Christmas too. I mean, Jeremiah 10 is basically a Christmas tree as an idol, and it explains it. I believe it's Jeremiah 10. For the customs of the people are vain. This is Jeremiah 10, verse 3. For one cutteth a tree out of the forest, the work of the hands of the workmen with the axe. That's your tree, Christmas tree. They deck it with silver and gold. What do they do today? They put silver tinsel and gold tinsel on the tree, do they not? You know they do. They fasten it with nails. Well, they have a base plate, that's like this, right? Sometimes they put it in a tub and put water in the tub so it lasts for a few weeks. A lot of people put their Christmas tree up on Thanksgiving weekend and they take it down after New Year's. They fasten it with nails and with hammers, that it move not. They are upright as the palm tree, but speak not. They must need be born because they cannot go. In other words, if you want to move them from the living room to the porch, you got to pick it up and carry it. You can't say, like with your dog, go outside, They don't go. They cannot go, cannot go. Be not afraid of them, for they cannot do evil, neither also is it in them to do good. Okay? And you could explain the Christmas tree to them. And then tell them that churches have singing Christmas trees, and it gets worse and worse, You could explain to them that there's no J in the Hebrew alphabet. So the word Jehovah and Jesus could never be their name. It's Yeshua. And names have meaning. So Yeshua means like source or giver or salvation. Yeshua is salvation. And, Jehovah is the name. Yud He Vav He. So they're not calling God by the same name. That might get them thinking. I'm thinking. The Sabbath is a great one to hit them with. That's just really good. Let me find the Ten Commandments for you. I gotta remember where they are. Exodus. I don't remember the chapter anymore. Let me see if I can get it. It's Exodus 20. And verse 1, and God spake all these words, saying, I am Jehovah. See, they add the word am in I am. It doesn't say that in the Hebrew. It's ani, I. What he's really saying is, I, Jehovah, ani, Jehovah, Elohim, God in the plural, which have brought thee out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. Well, they have another God before them, but the people that you're trying to witness to are probably not aware of that at this time. Thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image, or any, that's a three-dimensional image, or any likeness of anything that is in heaven above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth. Thou shalt not bow down thyself to them, nor serve them, for I, Ani, Jehovah, Elohim, a jealous God, visiting the lawlessness of the fathers upon the children unto the third and fourth generation of them that hate. Now, if you get a guy and he bags a deer or a bear or something and goes to the taxidermist, has the stuff and puts it in his living room, is that a graven image? I think so. What if you took the actual deer or the bear and nailed it up on the wall? Well, it'd be rather grotesque, and after a few days you would have to move out of the house if you didn't get rid of it. because of the odor and the maggots and everything. So that's not going to happen. But yeah, the taxidermist just basically skins the animal and then builds a bone structure for it and stuffs it and preserves it. It's a graven image, I would think. I think it's rather sad that people go out and hunt animals just to put them up on their wall. I could never do that. For food, yeah. You know, people actually hunt bears, you know. When they hunt a bear, like in Alaska, they get a bear permit or something like that. What they're normally doing is they're running a rather high-powered rifle. Like maybe the least they would use is a 7mm. But a 7mm Magnum, they call it, and whatever it is, it's a 30-06 stepped up in velocity, so you could shoot across peaks and valleys. But they're going to use something heavier, 375 or 458, something like that, you know. They will try to get over the bear when he's feeding, lay down, get a good sturdy rest, focus the sight in, and blow the bear up while he's eating or doing something and doesn't know you're there. They're not going to get on a level ground with him at 60 yards because that sucker could run 60 yards as fast as a racehorse. You know, people get all confused about a bear attacking you. Now you got the little bears like in California, and they will not very often attack a person, or if they did, it would just be to get it to go away or something like that. They wouldn't really start eating you or anything. But the grizzly bears and the Kodiak bears are pretty vicious. So polar bears. But polar bears hardly ever attack a person. It's the environment and everything. Grizzlies do. They call them big brown bears, and they're huge. They can hit 1,200 pounds. They got heads literally like this. I mean, these guys are really strong and fast and vicious, and they grow up in the wild. And they're on the top of the food chain. There's nothing that hunts a grizzly. I mean, a pack of 12 wolves might be able to kill a grizzly, but I don't think there'd be more than 2 or 3 wolves left to eat the thing, best case. Okay? One swat with the paw, you got a dead wolf, you know. They wouldn't want to try that and be suicidal. I don't think there's anything. I mean, a mountain lion, grizzly wouldn't even take it seriously. Boom, boom, just swat it around and pick it up in his mouth and shake it. Be child's play for him. They're very dangerous. So the people they got off in the bear spray. You know, you get a big container and it puts out a large cloud. It's called a fog of pepper spray. Goes out maybe 10, 12 feet. I think some will go 25 feet. They're like the size of a small fire extinguisher at that point. So you don't have to aim it at the bear, you just in its general direction. Now, what people don't understand is if a bear's coming around to bother your food or your campsite or something like that, and you spray him, even if he's a big Kodiak grizzly, you spray him with the pepper spray, the chances are the guy's going to go away. Okay? He's not scared. You didn't startle him. It's not a sow with baby bear cubs worrying about the children. You know, it's a guy that's causing problems. He knows he's sort of trespassing, and you get him with this noxious smell. He's like, let me get out of here. You know? Now, when you're in the woods and this bear puts his head down and goes on a full charge against you, this sucker got an adrenal gland the size of a 5-pound can of coffee or something like that, you know. Maybe it's the size of a regular, you know, can or something, but he's got a huge adrenal gland, and this thing is full of adrenaline, which means he's not going to feel pain. And you could spray this guy with bear spray all you want, and he's going to kill you. When he finishes mauling you or killing you and walks away, he might be pretty ticked off that his eyes are irritated, but you're not stopping him with bear spray. Now, there's all kinds of idiots out there that talk about this, and they take pistols and try to shoot the bear. They're using 9mm pistols to take out bear. This is one of the stupidest things I ever heard in my life. I mean, you're talking about a very lightweight bullet that barely takes out a 150-pound person, and you're using it on a 900 to 1,200-pound bear. You got to have rocks in your head. But then you hear people say, well, I got the bear to stop, but I had to drop my whole clip in him. So they shoot the bear 8-9 times to drop it. What the savvy guides use is a 12-gauge shotgun, and they put these special slugs in it called the Brennicky slug. It's a very unusual slug. It moves not that fast. If you get the 3-inch, I think you get about 50 feet per second. But it packs a heck of a wallop, and it probably goes in 18 inches in the bear. And that stops the bear. That's what they use. And these idiots are telling people to get 9mm. Other idiots are saying 357 Magnums. Well, you can drop mountain lions that weigh 125 pounds with 357 Magnums pretty readily if you get a decent hit. 2 not so great hits in the torso probably stop it. Now, with a wolf, same thing, no problem. 357, yeah, you're going to drop a big wolf with that. Probably 2 hits in the body, you'll get him. Coyote, no problem. Moose, you got to have rocks in your head to try to take on a moose with a 357, but there's idiots that do it. Idiots do it, 45 ACP, by the time you finish getting through the bear's thick fur and into his fat layer, the bullet's probably going to burn out, and it's not going to cause a lot of damage. You're going to get him mad, but he likely is not going to be bleeding internally. You probably could never break any of his bones. Now in the 60s and 70s, the 44 Magnum used to be a very, very hard revolver to get your hands on, because they were selling them to soldiers in Vietnam because they liked using them against the Viet Cong that would be hiding in trees, because the trees were thin and the 44 Magnum would go through the tree, where I don't think they were getting such great results with the M16 because that bullet tumbled. So what the people were buying was, they weren't getting the Smith & Wesson Model 29. They were hard as heck to get. I remember back then I was trying to get one that was near impossible. Very close to impossible. So they were buying the Black Hawk, Super Red Hawk, I think they called it, or the 44 Magnum. And they were usually getting a 7.5-inch barrel. So this thing was throwing a 240 grain bullet out, and they'd usually get a hard cast bullet for penetration. And you were probably getting 1,600 feet per second or something like that from a 7.5, maybe 1,700. And yeah, they killed a lot of big bears with those, effectively. Yeah, that worked. But it was single action, so if you froze and you kept pulling the trigger, nothing would happen. You had to keep cocking it. But people in the wilderness practice with them. They put them in a holster in the front and they pull them out. There's a lot of idiots in every field that run around, Now, using a 44 Magnum for people is fairly dangerous and idiotic, because if someone comes in your house and you shoot a 44 Magnum, you might go through 15 pieces or 20 pieces of sheetrock. That means you could go through your house and your neighbor's house. It means you could kill your neighbor. You could kill somebody in the other room. Number 4 buckshot is really great for the house. That's not as big as double wood. It's much smaller, but you get 42 pellets. And it's pretty hard to survive a hit with 42 pellets at the same time, even if half the pellets get you. They're pretty substantial. It's a buckshot, number 4 buckshot, not number 4 birdshot. But if you're going to hit the sheetrock, it may go through one piece or 2 pieces of sheetrock, probably not more than one, and that's it. So you got a lot of safety advantages. You don't want to shoot a Brennicky slug in the house because, my gosh, that thing could go through your house, the neighbor's house, and then somebody's car or something. I wouldn't even want to know what that'll do. So people get idiotic ideas about guns. You know, now things, if you feel you're in danger, I've told you guys this before, get yourself a flashlight on Amazon, but get a name brand like O-Light is a good one. You got to do a little research and get one that has at least 2,000 lumens. Forget candle power. 2,000 lumens. And there's some that are this big. You charge them up with a USB. And really, I have one that's about this big. It's, I think, 2,000 lumens, and or more even, maybe 3,000. And if you shine it in somebody's face at night, even at 25 feet, I don't imagine any way they're going to be able to continue looking at it. I don't believe it's possible. You won't see. You're just going to get glaring light, and then if you shut the light off, they're going to be discombobulated for 10, 15 seconds. Now that's in a dark environment. If it's daytime, you got to up your game. Daytime, you got to get to 10,000 lumens or more, and then you can blind them in the daytime. But it's much, much harder. But you can do it. Now, I don't believe people go to jail for shining a flashlight in someone's face. No, malicious mischief or something like that. If you keep doing it, I mean, but you know, what are they going to put you in jail for 15 years for a flashlight in the face? I mean, they can do anything to you, you know. And that gets you. Now, you can't be harassing people with it, but if you feel threatened, you could shine the light on them and say, "Go away! Don't come any closer." You know. That I think you can get away with. Now, you're probably not going to get into any significant trouble at all, or trouble at all, period, with this. But check your local laws. Call a cop up. Call your police department up. Ask if they have a lawyer there. Or can I talk to somebody that deals with gun laws? They'll probably put you through and explain the flashlight. And ask them how you can get in trouble for that. And they'll tell you. The regular cops won't know. The gun guy will know. He's going to know knives. He's going to know guns. Okay? And he'll know this. They use flashlights all the time. Usually they don't get the high-powered ones because the very high-powered ones, the battery life doesn't last long. And they've got to often go through a warehouse looking for somebody or walk around in the woods by a car accident to see if someone got thrown out of the car, stuff like this. And they might keep the light on for 5-10 minutes or more. So you don't have a problem like that. You're going to keep it on for a few seconds only. So, you know, you can buy a nice light that's about this big with 13,000 lumens on Amazon. A good, reliable one, and that is horrifically blinding. Okay? It really is. But make sure you get at least 2,000 or 3,000 lumens, or your 3,000's a lot better. You're going to get a small one, and you don't need it to be on that long. 1 or 2 seconds does it. And if there's multiple people and they're standing close to each other, they're both going to get blinded, or you can move it around. You know. Now somebody might shoot at the light, so what cops do is they hold the light out on to their side, or they'll hold it to the side and up, or they'll hold it up, or they'll move it around, but they'll try to keep it away from their main body. The odds of hitting your arm are pretty slim, but could happen, but slim. So someone will go after the light thinking it's in front of you. But it's pretty hard to look at it like that, you know. Now, that'll get you out of a lot of tough spots, okay? Just the light, without any noise, without any blood, without having to report it or anything. You know, I want to file a report for turning on my spotlight and my searchlight or my flashlight in a residential city. You know, I mean, it's no such report form that I ever heard of for that. You know, it's like car headlights. I mean, come on. Don't get a laser because you can hurt yourself and other people with it in a fraction of a second. Don't do that. Now, let's say the eggs are hitting the fan. What can you do with the flashlight? Well, even if the eggs don't hit the fan, you can carry pepper spray with the flashlight. Okay? It doesn't matter which one you use first. If you spray the guy with pepper spray, his eyes are going to be really irritated. It doesn't really matter which one you use. They have some with a foam that cling, but I don't think they project out as far or as accurately. You can just get the liquid, but get a good size one. Don't get the little thing. Get something about like that. And you want to find out how far it goes. You want it to get out at least 15 feet if you can get it. 25 feet is even better. And so you could spray in somebody's face and then turn the flashlight on. And they are definitely going to turn their face away from you. They're not going to try to look in the flashlight after the pepper spray. And you could reverse the order. Put the flashlight on him, and the guy's going to turn away, maybe go like that. If he puts his hand up, pepper spray's not so great. If he doesn't put his hand up, you could then pepper spray him. Now, if you pepper spray the guy and he's not presenting a threat anymore and you put the flashlight on him, so what? You just wanted to see what happened, right? Wanted to see who he was so I can identify him to the officer. Let's say something like that, right? But if you give him the flashlight first and you sort of deactivated him and then you hit him with the pepper spray, now you can get into aggravated assault. It's far-fetched, but some cop or prosecutor may try it. Now, let's say there's no more government and it's the Wild West. Well, the laws are gone because there's nobody to enforce them. Not God's laws, but the secular laws. So how do you work the flashlight then? Well, it changes the game. You use it with a knife, like a Bowie knife. If you're going to get a serious knife, you want a 9-inch blade. Okay, you don't want any little things like that. If you stab somebody with a 4-inch blade, they're still coming with the pocket knife. The only thing the pocket knives are good for is severing arteries and veins and tracheas and eyes and things like that. Just sticking it in people, you're not going to accomplish it. Stick somebody with a 9-inch blade and you got to hit a home run. But you're going to have to, with a lot of force, you're not going to just go like that. You know? So you hit him with the flashlight, then you hit him with the knife. Now, if you're going to decide to cut someone's arm because they're holding some weapon or something like that, and you just go like that, their arm's still going to work. But if you go boom, boom, you make an X, boom, boom, they're not going to be able to use that arm. But you got to do the X. You can't do it with just one simple cut. That's not good. They're going to lose blood. They're going to be upset. They're going to, you know, but if you do the X cut, the chances are if you go deep, which is, I don't know, 1 inch or 3/4 of an inch or something like that, you're going to get the desired effect. Their arm ain't working. If you go across their thigh, you got to come back around and try to do the X. If you just go 2 straight lines, you very likely are going to be successful as well. But you got to hit them twice, not once. Once don't work. So you combine the flashlight with a knife. Now, you know, these guys go to martial arts school for 20 years, 30 years, and they're going to, you know, practice taking a knife away from somebody. Yeah, good luck with that. If you want to practice taking a knife away from somebody who doesn't know what they're doing, it's going to work somewhat, maybe, you know. But if you try to take a knife away from somebody and he hits you with a 3,000 lumen flashlight, your eyes are shut, and then you feel that little poke in your stomach. That feels like someone punched you, maybe, and you just been stabbed. See, the martial arts gives people a very tremendous sense of false security. They teach crap. It's like the churches or the synagogues, or it's just they teach crap. They MMA, everybody, oh, MMA. Look, it's so rare that you're going to be in the street and get picked on by somebody by yourself, by themselves. If you're drunk or on drugs and you look at, yeah, that could happen, okay? I'm not talking about a guy pulling a pistol. That's a stick-up. I mean, you know, a fight, not a stick-up. Not somebody wants to insult you, beat you up for other reasons, not that they want your money or your watch, okay? It's almost always this character has witnesses, his friends. MMA is takedowns. They charge the other guy and they grapple them in the ground. So you go to MMA school and you go to Gracie Jiu-Jitsu, similar, and you're going to go start grappling with these idiots. Now you're on the ground. His friends will come over and kick your teeth in, or stomp on your head, or kick you in the groin, or break your ribs, or something like that. It's stupid. It's not a self-defense art. It's great if you want to become a millionaire fighting MMA on TV. Yeah, okay, but that's going to teach you how to get yourself killed in the street. Can these people fight effectively? Yes. Can they fight rather well acceptably? Yes, but when they start with the takedowns, that's not it. That's not for the street. Because the jerk provoking you and bothering you is almost always going to have a wingman. Okay? And many times the robbers are too. They'll come up on you on a motorcycle. One will get off and pull the gun and liberate your goods and get back on the motorcycle. There's two. So if you start doing fighting with him and takedown, the guy on a motorcycle could shoot you, or the guy on a motorcycle might just get off the motorcycle and come kick you in the head, and then you're in a coma or something, or you know, it's not what you want to do, you know. So if the super martial artist, the guy that has his own school and everything, comes after you, you have a knife, and then you hit him with a big flashlight in the eyes, maybe even if it's daytime, you hit him with one of those 13,000 lumens, it goes out the window. Just like a pair of mirrored sunglasses makes the demon people eye contact worthless. Zero value. They have no real power. They think they do. So the flashlight's your friend. A nice 3,000 lumen flashlight. But get a name brand. Don't buy these weird brands in Amazon. They're crap. Do some research. Look, best self-defense flashlight and Google. You know, get the names. Olight, O-L-I-G-H-T is one. 2,000 lumens is your dead bare minimum. If you could get one with 4,000 or 5,000 lumens, much better. I don't think you're going to get great results till you get in the daylight, in the sunlight, until you get to 10,000 lumens. Then you'll get a pretty good effect. Okay? There's other good brands. There's 4 or 5. I can't remember all the names of them, you know. The other thing that screws these martial artists up, if you got 2 knives, they can't do takeaways on a double knife because they need 2 hands to take 1 knife away. So while he's taking 1 knife away, you slice his throat with your other knife. You know, it's the martial arts. The most your body can handle without thinking is perhaps 12 or 14 at the most moves without having to think it through. What's think it through? Oh, he's going to throw a right hook. Okay, I will fall back 45 degrees to my left, block his hook, grab his arm, pull him into an elbow. That's how you get killed in a fight, when you start thinking like that. You got to do it without the thinking. You got to be like reflexive. And the human body and the brain isn't going to get more than 12, or maybe some people could get up to 14 moves. That's it. So you go to a martial arts school and they're teaching you 150 different moves over years. They're your enemy. They're not helping you. All this garbage they lie to people about the chi, the energy, and how they're going to build up energy and punch somebody, and the old masters know how to do this. Let me tell you something. If that was real, which it's not, it's all bogus. Some of them use demons to make people think they got more power. Yes, they do. They use demons. Not every one of them, but a lot of times they do. They um, they would be fighting MMA and be multi-millionaires. These old Chinese and Japanese masters that are 50, 60, 70, 80 years old, been doing it their whole life since they were 5 years old. If the chi was real, they'd be getting in the MMA arena and making 200,000 a fight, and they would just punch somebody, and the person would go flying back 10 feet and fall down. It's not real. It's bogus. It's not real. It's make believe. That's all it is. Make believe. Um, so the flashlight could be your friend if people are running amok in the streets. It could be your friend. What if someone comes into your house and you lay in wait behind a wall or something? He comes in, boom, you zap him with the flashlight in the face. Then you get Louisville Slugger baseball bat out and crack him in the head. End of story. Rarely will they ever come in the house themselves, though, so you got to be careful about that. Having a flashlight and a knife is very lethal. Having pepper spray and a knife could be extremely lethal because you blind them and then cut them. But if you try that in a modern day world, you're going to probably go to jail. You hit them with pepper spray, you supposedly remove the threat, and then you slice their throat. Well, now you got a problem. I think they call it aggravated assault. With a flashlight, and then hitting him with a knife, yeah, it's mitigated down. Well, I needed the flashlight to see him. It was dark. You can get out of that. But the pepper spray would be hard to get out of. And the prosecutors will, in a lot of cities, try to make that case. In a lot of other cities, they'll say, well, this vermin was just going out trying to rob people. What do I care? I'm not prosecuting the guy for killing him. The guy was in the process of doing an armed robbery. The heck with him, let him fall. But you don't know what you're going to get for a prosecutor. So if you're really worried about walking around, you can get a tremendous amount of mileage out of it. Let's say someone comes over to your car and you stopped at a light and they're starting harassing you. You hit them with your flashlight right through the car. Now, I'm not saying hit another moving car. I'm talking about hitting a pedestrian that walks up to your stopped car to try to bother you and get money out of you or something like that. You can give them a shot at a flashlight through the window. It won't. It'll still blind them. You get them to walk away. If somebody's bothering on you on the road and you got a 13,000 lumen flashlight and you shine it in their eyes, well, that's prosecutable as a criminal offense. That you don't want to do. Now, if the eggs hit the fan and there are no more government and somebody's following you with your car, yeah, you give it to your husband or wife and say, shine it in his face. The car behind you, and you shine it on him, and he's not going to follow you for a while. The light is a tremendous tool because when you if you ever get a real decent teacher of fighting, not martial arts, fighting, they're going to tell you that unarmed combat, I should say, you whenever you make a move against somebody, you got to take something away, or you're wasting your time. Okay, so with the flashlight, you're taking their vision away, even temporarily, but that can give you an exodus to get out of there. It could give you an opportunity to disable the person and then get out of there, and lots of things, you know. So, and it makes no noise, it doesn't attract much attention at all, and it's not traceable, there's no smoke or powder odors. You know, you don't have to worry about hitting an innocent bystander. Can you use it on animals? Absolutely. Does it work? Oh gosh, yes. Dog, you just zap, you could zap the dog with it and he loses his vision. Not permanently, for a few seconds, and then you can, you know, it's probably going to deter the dog. Pepper spray is better because it disables the dog for a while, but you got to be careful. If you do that to the dog in the street, it could get hit by a car, attacked by another dog, and stuff like that. The bright light should get rid of the dog. The dog may try to come back at you if you shut the light off and see if you you do it again. He's probably going to give up. He's confused with this. He doesn't know what's going on. You know, now if you scared a mother puppy in the back, a mother with puppies in the backyard, and she was protecting her litter, and you were trespassing on her property like you were a burglar, and you shined a light at the dog's face, the dog will still smell and hear you, and the mother dog may just charge to protect the litter, and that's it. But that's a dog on her own turf protecting her own babies. Out in the street, it's no man's land. He's probably going to go away. You know, he's not protecting his turf. The street is the street. His dog will go away probably. I can't give you a written guarantee, but generally I believe the dog will just say, well, this isn't for me. I don't understand this. I don't know what to make of this. I'm out of here. What's his other end? What's he after? Trying to provoke you? He's not trying to defend his litter from you or himself or his house or his property. He's just being a jackass. So, you know, go away. So if you're concerned, you know, other things you could do is you could have a cane with a flashlight, not in it, but with it, so in the eyes, whack with the cane, you know. It's another way to go. Nunchaka with a flashlight is rather lethal, you know. But lots of things. What about flashlights and guns? Yeah, cops use it all the time. You hold the flashlight here, and you hold the gun, and the action is to push the two up against each other to steady it. You know, you can do it. It's up to you. Usually they don't use a very bright flashlight to blind a person. They use a 500, 800 lumen flashlight, something like that. Which is bright. It'll disable your vision a little bit, you know, but it's not going to get the effect of a 3,000 lumen, you know. But they're looking to illuminate the area to see what's there. They're not looking to go out and blind people, per se. But if you keep it in the person's face while you're questioning them, well, that keeps them way off guard, off balance, and it's safer for the officer because they're not going to lash out with a razor blade and slice their hand. Or, you know, they can't see. They're screwed up. It's a bright light in their face. It's safer for the officer. It's annoying for the person, but it doesn't mean that much. Now, if the person's drunk, the light will bother them more. But because they're drunk, they won't feel the pain. Let me check the chat. So the flashlight is one of the sleepers of sane self-defense where you're not going to get hurt. If you could get your hands on a blackjack legally in Florida, if you have a carry concealed permit, you can carry a blackjack. And you got to learn how to use them. The slapjacks are very good, and the blackjacks. You keep them in your pocket, you whip them out, boom, and you clock somebody on the side of the head by the temple. They go down like that. When I was in law enforcement, we were allowed to carry those. Today, no more. I mean, they're really dead. Now, you don't have to hit people. You can hit people in the knuckles. You can hit them in the knee, the elbow. You know, they're really dangerous. They're really dangerous. But the most lethal weapon, other than the gun, is the knife. But you really got to know how to use the knife. Just running around with a knife, and, you know, the karambit. If you're going to carry a short knife, like the 4-inch or less, it has a curved blade with a point, and you hold it, and you got to learn the moves. But you see, just sticking somebody with a 4-inch blade is normally not going to do much good at all, unless perhaps you get it in their trachea or their eyeball or their heart. They're probably not going to do much of anything. Now, could they die later? Yeah, if you're talking 15 minutes later, an hour later, yeah, they could die. And they often will, but that doesn't concern you. You want a result within, 2 or 3 seconds at most, right? You don't want a result in 15 minutes. So the karambit is your answer, but you got to learn about those. And the best ones are fixed blade, but there are some good ones. Emerson makes a good one that's foldable. And Cold Steel used to make them years ago that were high quality. I don't think they do it anymore. I'm not sure, but I don't know. Probably not, but maybe they do. And those will be expensive, $200-300. They're not inexpensive, the folding ones. The fixed is, $50 for a good one. If you want to use, the most deadly knife that they got is the Bowie. I prefer them at about 10 to 12 inches, 11, 12 inches really. And I like it when it has the top edge, the first 3 inches or so is sharp, very sharp, so shaving sharp, so you can do the back cut. And those things are lethal. And that's why they made them illegal in the 1800s in some states. Guys, you could just take one of these things out if you got it in a sheath behind your back. If you were playing cards with somebody and they were cheating, the old Hollywood movie, you reached your hand back, you pulled it out, boom, you came right down, cleaved in his head, you crack his head open and go through his brain. These had 1/4-inch thick top blade. The top of the blade was 1/4 of an inch, or even thicker, sometimes thicker, 3/8. Beautiful steel, high carbon steel that you needed to keep oiled for rust. Put a razor sharp edge on it, and boy, it's like a sword, like a sword. And they're great. The Bowie is super deadly knife. It really is. It was quite an invention. There's a TV show, I think you could find it on some of the streaming services, called Jim Bowie, who they named the Bowie knife after. I think it ran 2 or 3 years. The first one shows you the history of the Bowie, how the knife maker makes it, and the rest of it is fairly absurd. He doesn't carry a pistol in an area of gunslingers, and he throws the Bowie knife at him and kills him with the Bowie knife. You don't throw Bowie knives. There's throwing knives for people who like to throw knives, but it's a stupid thing. It's so difficult to use a throwing knife, and it's so short range, and the chances of it doing nothing but making the person irritated and mad is extremely high. If you were living in a beach area where people walked around in bathing suits, and you threw a knife at somebody in a bathing suit 12 or 15 feet, you might really cause some damage, not real bad damage, but some damage. But if you're talking about people wearing a t-shirt, a shirt, and a jacket, or a leather jacket, you know, or a thick coat, like a pea jacket, navy pea jacket. I mean, I don't know what kind of knife you're going to throw at that person that's going to do anything. Somebody with a thick, horsehide shot, SCHOTT motorcycle jacket, the knife's probably going to bounce off. That's Hollywood throwing knife stuff, That's not anything that people really consider martial arts effective. It's pretty stupid, you know. Um, you could go to a store and get a piece of chain, 10, 12 inches or whatever. Buy those wrenches, monkey wrenches, where you spin a dial and it opens the wrench and closes it, and on the other end there's a hole in the wrench. So you get these chain links that allow you to clip it through the hole on both ends, and then nunchuck. But not the kind Bruce Lee did, the kind that if you come down with reasonable force against a nice thick table, you crack the table open. It's a real table cracker. You can hit stones with that and break stones. 25 bucks or less, and you're off to the races. You got to know what you're doing, or you'll hit yourself in the head and wind up cracking your head open. You gotta know how to use that thing. That's a very dangerous weapon, and I would not suggest you use anything like that during peacetime. Well, the government's still functioning. There's also chain. You just get yourself a nice, big, thick chain. Thick, real thick, anchor chain you gotta go after. And you use it just like a nunchucker. And, I mean, we're talking thick 3/8 inch links. Okay? Real thick stuff. Heavy metal. And those things are usable like a nunchucker. You gotta put hours into it to learn how to use it, but they're very deadly because it's all metal, But the knife is the deadliest. Combine it with the flashlight and the pepper spray, and it's super deadly. You don't have the distance capability of a pistol. That's what you're lacking. So it doesn't take the place of the pistol. Nothing really does. Or the rifle. No, nothing out there really does. But if somebody's close to you, there's a lot of weapons that could be better than the pistol, because you can push a pistol away from somebody. There's people that can, if you're dumb and you don't know how to hold a pistol and you put it out and it's this far from the person, they could go like that before your eye can do anything. And if you fire the weapon, it goes off on the side. And then they're going to hold on to the hand with the gun and start clobbering you in the head with the other hand. So if you know what you're doing, you would hold the gun back against your hip on the side, pointed at him, and you'd have, if it was on your right hip, you'd have your left foot a little bit forward, like a foot forward, and you'd be canted at an angle, but the pistol would be pointed at him. And there is no takeaway of that. The only thing the guy could gamble with is, this guy's too scared, I'll take it away, he'll never fire. Well, that's gambling with your life, because if a guy does fire, he's going to hit you. And, you want to roll the dice, go ahead, You never hold the gun out like that. You never go put a gun on a guy's head like that. You just swat it away. He only has to move it that far, and the gun goes off and misses him. This stuff is even stupider, where they lay the gun on the side. I don't even know what they're thinking. Why you would ever want to do that. It's like how to make a semi-automatic gun misfire. Let's hold it on the side. Why would you? I don't know. All kinds of crazy people. But seriously, the flashlight, pepper spray are excellent. You're probably not going to get prosecuted, but check your local laws. Call the police department, talk to them about it for self-defense if you're anxious. But then again, they're going to ask you what your name is, and they're going to write it down and put it in a logbook. So in case something happens one day, they are going to try to frame you. So maybe you shouldn't call them. But you're really going to be very safe with that. I never hear of people getting prosecuted for flashlight unless you're really harassing somebody. You know, the person's not bothering you, you're bothering them. Do the bad guys use flashlights and pepper spray to rob people? I don't hear of it. They don't like that kind of stuff. They don't like it. No. So the flashlight's an excellent device. And I tell you, I have one that's maybe about that big, and it's quite powerful, blinding powerful. If I take it in the front yard and I want to see something, I'm afraid to use it around the dogs because I don't want them to look at it. This is not good for them. They're really bright. In a dark place, there's no way your vision's going to hold out against that. You might be able to walk towards the light and stagger and stumble, but if there's things to fall on you, you're likely going to fall. But who says you have to stand still? You don't have to stand still. You can keep moving when you use the light. You know? So anyway, be careful on Christmas, because what happened in Germany, it was a Christian mall, a Christmas Christian mall. The guy went after 200 wounded and I think 5 or 15 dead with a car ramming or a truck ramming. So be careful, guys. I don't care where you are, there's a risk of terrorist attacks pertaining to Christmas and the churches, and generally they don't go after the Jews on Christmas, but because it's Hanukkah, they could go, it's the same day, December 25th. They could go after Jews too. So I don't know what's going to happen, but based on what happened in Germany and the tensions in the world, I think it's a decent assumption to be cautious. I would say starting tomorrow through the 27th, because you don't know. New Year's, I don't think they'll do much on New Year's. I don't think it's a big deal. It's not a religious holiday of any sort. So, that's what I got for today. I will keep you updated as to things developing. I'm rather certain there's going to be another big attack on Yemen by Israel. Today's Sunday, I would say by Tuesday or Wednesday. Israel could sometimes go right away, like they might go tonight, but sometimes they take a few days. They want to get really good intel on the target package. They want to see if things are being moved around and juggled, and they're very precise on what they want to hit. So it might take a few days, but there's going to be a big one on Yemen. Now, if Yemen tries to continue launching at Israel, we're going to probably strike them pretty quickly. And I don't think this is going to be a one-off strike. It's going to be several strikes, I think. And we know the U.S. and UK are striking, and we know Israel is striking. That's quite a bit right there. But the fact they're trying to build a coalition is very important. And we know the prophecy for Edom, which is Yemen. It's gone. Wasteland. A wasteland. They are a threat to Saudi Arabia right now. And if America gets them mad enough, they may cut the internet cables and they may shoot missiles at the Aramco oil facility like they did 2 times in the past and got hits. That could further increase the bombings on Yemen. Iran ain't doing nothing to help them. Russia ain't helping them. Hamas ain't helping them. Hezbollah ain't helping them. Who's helping them? Nobody's helping them. The only one that's happy that they're attacking shipping in the Red Sea and the Sea of Aden is the other terrorist groups. Nobody else thinks that's a good idea. Nobody. So we got to wait and see how that turns out. Between that F-18 going down and Israel getting hit twice in a few days, I really don't think that a lot of water is going to go under the bridge till Yemen gets it. And then after Yemen comes Iraq, and then comes Iran. Can they do it in enough time for Trump's inauguration? Yeah. Well, they're going to leave. The war with Syria is going to drag on, but Yemen and Iraq could go down pretty easy. Iran, not so easy. It'll be an inheritance for the Donald from Biden. That's what I think. And when are the sleeper agents going to get loose? I don't know, but I think it's coming. Possibly if Edom falls and then Iraq falls, they may try to push the sleeper agents. When they push the green light on the sleeper agents, you got to remember that's a dire step. That's the path of no return. Once they push that button, they got to destroy America, or America will destroy them. There's no coming back from that one, and they know it. So I'm Moshe. Please pray for me and my wife for our peace, safety, protection, joy, healing of our bodies. Pray for our finances. Pray for our animals and pets that are all rescues to be happy, healthy, and whole. My jaw's mostly stopped. I still get a little of it. I can appreciate the prayers. My neck is fine. The shoulder is fine. Those prayers really work. Pray for the peace of Jerusalem. Pray for better videos. And I think if you try to liberate your friends and family from the church, and you do the getting rid of the witchcraft and the spells and stuff on them, and toss them for the heck of it, right? I think you're going to be pretty surprised the way things go in a good way. In a good way. Now, if their names are not written in the book of life, you could do anything and it's not going to help. But it might help. Go get them. And remember, instead of saying go to the church of your choice, toss the church of your choosing. Okay, I'm out. Thanks, guys. And I send my shalom to all those who love Yeshua HaMashiach.